When Republicans win elections here in Massachusetts, it tends to come at the highest levels of state politics. Think Bill Weld, Paul Cellucci, and Mitt Romney, all of whom captured the governor's office. Winning federal races has been considerably tougher for the GOP, as the state's all-Democratic congressional delegation makes abundantly clear. But this year could be an exception. Local and national Republicans see an opportunity in the 6th congressional district to claim their only seat in the Massachusetts delegation, and they're pinning their hopes on Richard Tassay. He's again looking to unseat Democratic Congressman John Tierney, who narrowly defeated Tassay 2 years ago despite the conviction of Tierney's wife on federal tax evasion charges. Tierney was buoyed in that race by President Barack Obama's Get Out the Vote operation, and he may actually have benefited from Tassay's strangely laconic closing ad. This time around, Tierney has to beat back primary challenges from Democratic opponents who question his legislative record and overall efficacy. But he's still the strong favorite to capture the Democratic nomination and to take on Tassay one more time in the general. And Congressman Tierney is here. Congressman, welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking you about the situation in the Middle East and the rise of ISIS. You have been active on foreign affairs throughout your time in Congress. Yeah. What is the right way for us to be dealing with the threat that ISIS poses?
Well, I think the president has it about right now. He's doing the humanitarian work that needs to be done to save people from being basically slaughtered on that and protecting our people that are there as well. But the right way to do it is to make sure that we and the rest of the international community force as much as we can the Iraqis to deal with this in a way that brings all the parties into the play. They got to get the Sunnis and the Kurds and the Shiites to play at this thing and to work together. We've seen that the Peshmerga from the Kurds can do a good job fighting if they have the artillery to do that and they have the equipment. But they need to work in a unified way with the other two segments of that country, and that's what's important.
Isn't part of the problem, though, that we've learned since we ousted Saddam Hussein, that for a lot of people who we consider Iraqis, the notion of an Iraqi national identity is thin at best?
Yeah, it is thin at best. And it doesn't have to be that it can't happen, but it's going to take some really strong leadership and a lot of patching up. I mean, there's a lot of damage down on the other side. There's a lot of distrust there. So I know that Vice President Biden has had the theory that it's going to have to be 3 autonomous regions, and that may be one way that people end up looking at it. But right now, they need strong leadership that's going to be inclusive on that, and an international community that comes together and tries to force that to happen and gets engaged in making sure that they understand what the strategy has to be for peace there.
Might it help pushing some sort of an international solution and pushing the Iraqis to do more themselves if we were at least threatening to put troops on the ground? The president has said we won't. Should he have ruled that out?
Yeah, I think he should have ruled it out. I think anybody that's been watching knows that it's not going to happen, and he has no intent to do it. You shouldn't be making false assertions or threats on that basis. But I think the international community could make it clear that they're going to support the Peshmerga and others with the logistics and with the equipment if they need to push back on that, and that the other areas, Saudi Arabia and others, are going to have to get involved as well.
Let me ask you about a domestic crisis that's been unfolding for the past couple of weeks. As you can guess, I'm talking about the situation in Ferguson. What is your take on the president's response to that so far, and whether perhaps he could have been doing more? Some of his statements have struck people as maybe overly cautious.
Well, I'm glad that he has the Attorney General there today, and I thought the piece that the Attorney General put on the op-ed, I think it was in USA Today, I thought that struck the right note on that. I think it's absolutely important that people know they have the right to peacefully protest, particularly when they're aggrieved in a situation, but that even the protesters can't condone the violence and the looting that's going on. But we need to have an investigation that's independent. We need to have it be transparent so people get to understand exactly what happened and what the information is. And in long range, I think the administration, through the Attorney General, has got to be very engaged trying to put that security apparatus, the public safety people back in touch with the community in a way that works, because clearly it's not working now.
As things have blown up there, have you been surprised at this pent-up rage that we're seeing?
Well, I did. I mean, I'm not as familiar with Ferguson as
well, you and me both,
closer are on that or whatever, so sure, I was surprised to see that. Obviously, I think a lot of it had to do with the makeup of the public safety people there. I think there was a great disparity between the community and the people that are on the public safety board on that, and obviously it's going to take some leadership to work through that long range to have it be more reflective of the community and to build that trust.
Let me turn to your campaign for re-election now and just throw a couple questions at you. As you know, one of your opponents in the Democratic primary, Seth Moulton, has criticized what he casts as sort of a inappropriately robust legislative record, saying that you've been in Congress for 18 years, and as he puts it, have passed one bill. Yeah. What does Seth Moulton, as you see it, get wrong about the work you've done in Congress and the way work gets done in Congress?
So, I mean, either he's incredibly uninformed about how Congress works and how bills get passed and legislation is done, or he's just being cynical. One or the other. I mean, I'm very proud of my record on that. You know, there are a lot of people around the country that are getting refunds from their health insurance companies right now because of legislation that I wrote in Massachusetts. I think it's $133 a family.
What legislation is that?
That was the medical loss ratio in the Affordable Care Act on that, and you know, they have the Green Jobs Act, which I wrote, and then put $500 million towards that, which got people trained to do jobs in green energy, renewables, and efficiencies. And
let me just jump in for a second. For those of us, and I'm one of them, who don't fully understand the mechanics of Congress, is it possible, did you write the entire Green Jobs Act?
Well, and actually I did on that bill, and I did on the medical loss ratio provision, and I did on the Wartime Contracting Commission that saved $60 billion. But that's unusual. I mean, generally what you would do is you work collaboratively. I mean, that's what I learned early in my career. So when I was working on the Higher Education Opportunity Act, I didn't write that whole broad bill. I invited in my colleagues and people in the community, stakeholders as well.
So when you write the entirety, and pardon my obtuseness, but when you write the entirety of a bill or an important portion of it, why is it that you don't get to check that off in the, you know, here's a bill that I passed?
Well, I do.
Or you do.
Seth Moulton doesn't, apparently.
What's the metric he's using? Is it primary sponsor of the bill that he's reading?
I have no idea. I mean, I think it's just plain cynical politics, basically, on this. I mean, he obviously has no desire to talk about the issues and what the people of the district are concerned about, but there's certainly jobs. You know, it was the Green Jobs Act. It was also the work I did on the bill that we just recently passed, which I helped with George Miller and Ruben Hinojosa and others in the House wrote the job bill on that. Got it passed by working with the Senate and bringing it back at 95% of the 95% of the whole House and the whole Senate to vote on it. That's how you do legislation. You collaborate with people, you invite them to get their ideas, and you take a number of provisions that people write and you put them into a larger bill. Or you may have a bill like the Green Jobs Act or the Wartime Contract Commission or some other bill like that that you just managed to write and pass.
For voters who want to learn more about this, do you detail your legislative accomplishments on your campaign site?
I have information on the campaign site. I don't go around putting my name on it and say this is one on that basis, because I really think that's not the way to proceed, but I think they can figure it out if they go.
Briefly, a last question for you. As you know, in the last race, your wife's legal woes were a topic that came up frequently. They seem to have not been in this race, but I'm wondering if there are any voters watching who feel some sense of reluctance because of what your wife went through legally to cast their vote for you this time around. Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Well, look, I think this isn't about my family, and it wasn't about Richard Tassay's family on that. It's really about the best person for the job. The difficult part was when the Republicans tried to pin something on me for what my in-laws had done, and that has been resolved. That was something that was looked at, analyzed legally and factually, and then the case was just closed. A bipartisan, unanimous closure of that case. So it's behind, and what needs to be a focus is what the people in this district really believe in. Are we going to have fair pay for jobs? Are we going to lower the cost of education for students, get their interest rates down, and allow them to go to work? Things that I've been working on, I think the people in the district know, and I think they know me, and I think they want me in there fighting for regular families and the things that are important to them.
All right, Congressman Tierney, we have to leave it there. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.